Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the TSS Vigilant, Earth's most advanced stealth vessel, watching the distant lights of the Galactic Council's diplomatic station. The same station where, just 3 months ago, humanity had celebrated its first official contact with alien civilization. The same station where, 12 hours ago, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez had uncovered the truth that would change everything. "Admiral." Rodriguez's voice came through the comm, steady despite the weight of his words. "The quantum decryption is complete. You need to see this." Chen made her way to the bridge, where holographic displays showed thousands of decoded transmissions between council members. Messages that painted a picture far different from their public face of peaceful cooperation. "They never saw us as equals," Rodriguez explained, highlighting key passages. "The entire First Contact Protocol was designed to gain our trust while they positioned their fleets. According to these plans, within 5 years, they intended to have enough forces in place to demand Earth's complete surrender." Chen's expression remained neutral, but her hands gripped the console edge. The Council had called humans primitive but promising, had offered technology and knowledge exchange programs, had spoken of lifting humanity into a grand galactic community, all while planning to enslave them. "How long have they been watching us?" she asked. "Based on these records, at least 50 years. They classified us as potentially dangerous but containable. Their assessment suggested we would be too focused on internal conflicts to notice their gradual military buildup in neighboring systems." A bitter smile crossed Chen's face. The Council had made the same mistake as so many others throughout human history, underestimating humanity's capacity for unity in the face of external threats. "What's the status of Project Prometheus?" Rodriguez pulled up another display, showing a fleet of ships unlike anything the Council had ever seen. While the aliens had been watching Earth's obvious military developments, humanity had been working on something far more ambitious in secret. "The fleet is ready, Admiral. All 25 vessels are equipped with the quantum phase drives and neural-linked weapon systems. The Council's sensors won't be able to detect them until it's too late." Chen nodded, studying the tactical displays. The Council's military doctrine relied heavily on overwhelming force and superior technology. They had never faced an enemy that could simply vanish from their sensors, strike from impossible angles, and disappear again. "Send the coded transmission to all Prometheus vessels," Chen ordered. "Operation First Strike begins in 6 hours. We hit their command and control centers first, then their shipyards. By the time they realize what's happening, we'll have eliminated their ability to mount an effective response. The Council will call it an unprovoked attack," Rodriguez said quietly. "No," Chen's voice was firm. "We've seen their plans. This isn't unprovoked. This is preemptive self-defense. They thought they could take their time, slowly tightening the noose while we smiled and thanked them for their guidance. They thought we were primitive, predictable, easy to control." She turned to face her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. "They thought wrong. Humanity didn't climb from the caves to the stars by being predictable. We didn't survive ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive tendencies by being easy to control. And we certainly didn't unite our entire species and develop technologies that the Council thinks are impossible by being primitive." The bridge crew stood a little straighter, pride and purpose evident in their bearing. They were about to launch an attack that would shock the galaxy, but every person present understood the stakes. This wasn't about vengeance or glory. It was about ensuring humanity's freedom to determine its own destiny. "Send word to the fleet," Chen commanded. "The Council wants to learn what humanity is capable of. Let's show them." As the Vigilant and its sister ships prepared for battle, Chen couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Council's careful plans, their assumptions about human behavior, their technological superiority, all of it was about to be undone because they had failed to understand a fundamental truth about humanity. When backed into a corner, humans don't wait for the inevitable. They strike first, strike hard, and rewrite the rules of engagement. The next few hours would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever, and humanity would never again be seen as a species to be patronized, controlled, or underestimated. The first signs that something was wrong came as subtle disturbances in the quantum field monitoring stations scattered throughout Galactic Council space. High Counselor Vexthor dismissed the readings as equipment malfunctions. After all, no known species possessed the capability to manipulate quantum fields with such precision. That assumption lasted exactly 6 minutes. The Council's primary shipyards over Centauri Prime simply ceased to exist. No warning, no energy signatures, no weapon traces. One moment the massive construction facilities were operating at full capacity, the next they were reduced to scattered atoms. Before the automated distress signals could even reach the nearest response fleet, 3 more shipyards followed suit. Impossible, Vexthor muttered, his crystalline form vibrating with stress patterns as reports flooded the emergency command center. The humans don't have this technology. They couldn't have developed it without us detecting their research. High Counselor, his aide's voice wavered. We're detecting similar quantum disturbances near the Arcturus command node. Aboard the TSS Vigilant, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The quantum phase drives weren't just allowing her ships to strike unseen. They were completely bypassing the Council's most advanced defensive systems. Status report, she commanded. Phase 1 objectives completed ahead of schedule. Rodriguez reported. All targeted shipyards have been neutralized. Council forces are attempting to establish a defensive perimeter, but their sensor networks can't track our movements. Chen nodded. The Council's military doctrine was based on overwhelming force projection and technological superiority. They had never conceived of an enemy that could simply ignore their defenses entirely. Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Target their long-range communication relays. Let's see how their command structure handles being cut off from central control. The Prometheus fleet moved like ghosts through space, their quantum drives bending reality around them in ways the Council had deemed theoretically impossible. Human scientists had not only proven it possible, but had weaponized it in ways that were revolutionizing warfare. On the Council's capital world, panic was setting in. Their mighty defense fleets were useless against an enemy they couldn't detect or engage. Their vaunted technology, accumulated over millennia of galactic dominance, was being systematically dismantled by a species they had planned to subjugate. How? Vexthor demanded, watching another command center vanish from the strategic display. How did they achieve this level of advancement without our knowledge? The answer, had he known it, lay in humanity's greatest strength, their ability to innovate under pressure. When the first hints of the Council's true intentions had been detected, Earth's best minds had been secretly mobilized. They didn't try to match the Council's established technology. Instead, they looked for ways to circumvent it entirely. The quantum phase drive was just the beginning. Each Prometheus vessel carried weapons and defensive systems that operated on principles the Council had never considered. Their neural-linked targeting systems allowed human crews to react with impossible speed and precision. Their quantum-entangled communications couldn't be intercepted or jammed. Admiral, Rodriguez called out, Council forces are attempting to adapt. They're saturating space with quantum field disruptors. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Exactly as predicted. Execute Protocol Omega. The Prometheus fleet shifted frequencies in perfect synchronization, their quantum drives adjusting to patterns that the Council's hasty countermeasures couldn't affect. It was another example of human adaptability. They had anticipated and prepared for every likely response. Their defensive line is breaking, Rodriguez reported. We have a clear path to their primary command and control center. Chen studied the tactical display, watching Council ships trying desperately to protect their vital infrastructure. They were fighting bravely, but they were fighting a type of war they had never prepared for. Send the message, she ordered. Let's see if they're ready to listen now. Throughout Council space, on every remaining communication channel, a simple message began repeating. Your plans for Earth's subjugation have been exposed. Your military capability has been neutralized. You assumed humanity would be easy to control. That assumption has cost you dearly. We are prepared to negotiate new terms for our relationship with the Galactic Council, as equals, not subjects. The choice is yours. Adapt to this new reality, or watch your empire crumble piece by piece. As the message played, Chen reflected on the irony of the situation. The Council had spent decades carefully planning how to control humanity, never realizing that their very presence would unite Earth's nations and drive human innovation to unprecedented heights. They had intended to subjugate a primitive species, only to find themselves outmaneuvered by the very qualities they had dismissed as irrelevant. The next few hours would determine the future of human-council relations, but one thing was already certain. Humanity would never again be underestimated in galactic affairs. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds argued frantically as reports of humanity's devastating attacks continued to pour in. In the center of the chamber, High Counselor Vexthor's crystalline form had taken on the deep purple hue of extreme distress. The humans must have had help, insisted Delegate Morax of the Centaurian Alliance, his tentacles writhing in agitation. No species could advance this quickly on their own. Someone must have given them this technology. "You're wrong," came a quiet voice. All eyes turned to Senior Analyst Corell, whose species was known for their ability to process vast amounts of data and identify patterns. "I've been reviewing our surveillance archives of Earth. We missed something fundamental about humans." The holographic displays activated, showing scenes from Earth's history. Look at their pattern of technological development. Every major advance they made came not through gradual progress, but through great leaps during times of crisis or competition. Images flashed by. The first powered flight, nuclear fission, space travel, quantum computing. When faced with what seemed like impossible challenges, they didn't follow established scientific paths. They invented entirely new ones. "But the quantum phase technology," Vexthor protested. "Our best scientists said it was theoretically impossible." "Precisely," Corell responded. "We assumed our understanding of physics was complete. Humans assumed there was more to discover. While we watched their conventional military development, they were exploring scientific principles we had never even considered." Aboard the TSS Vigilant, Admiral Chen received the latest intelligence updates. The Council's emergency session was proceeding exactly as Earth's behavioral analysts had predicted. "They're still trying to rationalize how we did it," Rodriguez noted, reviewing the intercepted communications. "They can't accept that we developed this technology independently." Chen nodded. "That's their greatest weakness. They've been the dominant force in the galaxy for so long, they've lost the ability to innovate. They can't understand a species that thrives on challenging established limitations." The tactical display showed the Council's forces attempting to reorganize. Their remaining fleets were consolidating around key strategic points, using formations and tactics that had served them well for millennia. "They're falling back on traditional doctrine," Chen observed, "preparing for the kind of battle they know how to fight." Status of Phase 3. "Ready to execute," Rodriguez confirmed. "The quantum grid is in position. Once activated, it will disrupt their ability to coordinate fleet movements across their entire territory." This was humanity's true advantage. Not just the advanced technology, but the willingness to use it in ways the Council would never expect. While they prepared for conventional space warfare, Earth's forces were about to change the rules again. In the Council chamber, Corell continued his analysis. "There's something else we miscalculated. We assumed their internal divisions would prevent them from mounting an effective response to our planned subjugation. Instead, our very presence united them." The displays showed how Earth's nations had gradually set aside their differences, pooling resources and expertise in secret preparation for this moment. The Council had interpreted this as simple technological development, never realizing they were watching the forging of a weapon aimed at their heart. Their entire strategy, Corell explained, is based on exploiting our overconfidence. They knew we would dismiss them as primitive. They knew we would assume our technology was superior. Every assumption we made about humans became a weakness they could exploit. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Their carefully laid plans for controlling humanity had not just failed, they had backfired spectacularly, giving Earth the very motivation it needed to surpass them. High Counselor, a communications officer interrupted, we're detecting massive quantum field fluctuations throughout Council space. The humans, they're doing something we've never seen before. On the Vigilant, Chen gave the final order. Execute Phase 3. The quantum grid activated, creating a web of interlocking fields that turned the very fabric of space-time against the Council's forces. Their ships, designed to operate in normal space, suddenly found themselves unable to maintain formation or execute coordinated maneuvers. Message from Earth Command, Rodriguez reported. The diplomatic package is ready for transmission. Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Council was about to learn another lesson about humanity. They weren't just capable of devastating military action, but also of offering mercy from a position of strength. Send it, she ordered. Let's show them that humans can be as generous in victory as we are devastating in battle. The future of galactic civilization hung in the balance, but for the first time, humanity would have a hand in shaping it, not as subjects or servants, but as equals who had earned their place among the stars through ingenuity, determination, and the courage to defy impossible odds. The Council's last-ditch offensive began with a desperate gamble. Having lost their most advanced shipyards and command centers, they activated their emergency protocols, calling in their reserve fleets from the outer territories. 5,000 warships, representing the combined might of a dozen allied species, converged on a single point in space. Admiral Chen watched the massive fleet gathering on her tactical display. They're abandoning their defensive positions, she noted, committing everything to a single decisive battle. It's their only option, Rodriguez replied. Their command and control infrastructure is in ruins. They can't coordinate multiple battle groups anymore. The Council's fleet was an impressive sight, capital ships stretching for kilometers, bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to ash. Under normal circumstances, such a force would be invincible. But these were not normal circumstances. They still don't understand, Chen said softly. They think quantity can overcome quality, that enough ships and enough firepower can overcome any technological advantage. The Council's offensive strategy was becoming clear. They had arranged their fleet in a massive sphere, using overlapping fields of fire to create an impenetrable defense. At the center of the formation, their flagship, a behemoth of engineering nearly the size of Earth's moon, prepared to unveil a weapon they had kept hidden for centuries. Energy readings from the Council flagship are off the scale, Rodriguez reported. They're powering up something big. The space around the Council fleet began to distort as their secret weapon activated. It was a gravity lance, a device capable of creating artificial singularities that could tear apart anything caught in their pull. The Council had developed it as a deterrent against any species that might challenge their authority, never expecting to actually use it. Chen's expression remained calm. Right on schedule. Execute Operation Looking Glass. The Prometheus fleet, which had been waiting in quantum phase space, began to move. But instead of attacking directly, they implemented a strategy that would have seemed insane to any conventional military force. Quantum mirrors in position, Rodriguez confirmed. Ready to initiate on your command. Chen nodded. Begin the reflection. The human fleet created a complex network of quantum fields around the Council armada. As the gravity lance fired, its immense energy beam struck these fields and bounced back. The Council's own weapon, reflected and amplified by human technology, tore through their fleet like paper. In the Council's command center, panic ensued as their ultimate weapon became their undoing. Ships were pulled apart by the very gravitational forces they had intended to use against humanity. Their perfect defensive formation became a deadly trap, each destroyed vessel adding to the chaos. "This is impossible." High Counselor Vexthor's voice shook as he watched his fleet tear itself apart. "They turned our own weapon against us." On the Vigilance Bridge, Chen watched the destruction with a mixture of satisfaction and regret. "Send the final message," she ordered. Throughout what remained of the Council fleet, every communication system received the transmission. "Your weapon has failed. Your fleet is in ruins. But unlike you, we do not seek dominance through destruction. Stand down, and we can end this without further bloodshed." For several tense moments, there was no response. The remaining Council ships hung in space, their crews watching as the artificial singularities they had created continued to consume their fallen comrades. Finally, Vexthor's voice came through, subdued and filled with a new understanding. We yield. You have proven yourselves not just our equals, but in many ways our superiors. We request terms for surrender." Chen exchanged glances with her command staff. This was the moment they had fought for. Not just victory, but the chance to reshape the galaxy's future. "The terms are simple," she responded. "Earth will take its place among the galactic community as a full and equal member. The Council will be reformed, with safeguards against any single species or alliance attempting to dominate others. And most importantly, you will acknowledge that progress comes not from control and conformity, but from freedom and innovation." As the Council's representatives formally accepted these terms, Chen reflected on how this victory had been achieved. Not just through superior technology or tactics, but through humanity's unique ability to think differently, to challenge assumptions, and to turn apparent weaknesses into strengths. The galaxy was about to enter a new era, one where humanity's influence would help drive progress and innovation rather than stagnation and control. The Council had sought to subjugate Earth. Instead, they had awakened a force that would transform galactic civilization forever. 6 months after the Battle of the Gravity Lance, the newly reformed Galactic Assembly convened for the first time. The massive chamber, once dominated by the crystalline architecture of the old Council species, now incorporated design elements from all member races, including, prominently, the clean lines and practical efficiency favored by humans. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's first representative to the Assembly, stood at the podium. The faces looking back at her represented thousands of species, many of whom had once viewed humans as primitive curiosities at best, threats to be contained at worst. "The old Council failed," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "not because they lacked power or technology, but because they forgot the most fundamental law of the universe: adapt or perish. They assumed their way was the only way, their knowledge complete, their dominance assured. That assumption nearly destroyed them." In orbit above, the TSS Vigilant maintained its watch, a visible reminder of how quickly the balance of power could shift. But it was no longer alone. Vessels from dozens of species now patrolled together, sharing technology and techniques in ways that would have been unthinkable under the old regime. Humanity's victory wasn't just about superior weapons or tactics, Chen continued. It was about proving that progress doesn't come from controlling and limiting others. It comes from freedom, the freedom to question, to innovate, to challenge what others claim is impossible. The quantum phase drive technology, once humanity's closely guarded secret, was now being shared with other species under careful protocols. But more importantly, the human approach to problem solving, the willingness to think differently and challenge established limitations, was spreading throughout galactic civilization. "We've all seen what happens when one group tries to dominate others," Chen said, her gaze sweeping the chamber. "We've also seen what's possible when different species work together as equals. The choice before us now is simple. Do we want a future of stagnation and control, or one of innovation and cooperation?" In the months since the war's end, changes had rippled through galactic society. Species that had been deemed too primitive for full membership under the old Council were now contributing unique perspectives and ideas. The rigid hierarchies that had stifled progress for millennia were being replaced by more dynamic, collaborative structures. Rodriguez, now a full commander, approached Chen after the session. "The Arctuvian delegation has approved the Joint Research Initiative," he reported. "They're particularly interested in combining their biotechnology with our quantum field manipulation techniques." Chen nodded, remembering how recently the Arctuvians had been among humanity's staunchest opponents, and the deep space exploration program. 20 species have signed on already. Turns out a lot of them were just waiting for permission to push beyond the Council's established boundaries. This was perhaps humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization, not their technology or military prowess, but their refusal to accept arbitrary limitations. Their example had awakened something in other species, a reminder of their own forgotten potential. In the Assembly's main concourse, representatives from formerly antagonistic species now engaged in eager discussion, sharing ideas and perspectives that had been suppressed under the old regime. The fear and suspicion that had dominated interstellar relations was being replaced by curiosity and collaboration. "We're picking up interesting readings from the Sagittarius arm," Rodriguez mentioned. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Chen smiled. Once, such an anomaly would have been seen as a potential threat to be contained. Now, it represented something else, an opportunity to explore, to learn, to push the boundaries of known space. "Assemble a joint expedition," she decided. "Let's show the galaxy how humanity approaches the unknown." As she looked out at the stars from the Assembly's observation deck, Chen reflected on how far they had come. Earth had faced potential subjugation and responded not just with force, but with innovation that transformed an entire civilization. They had turned potential conquerors into allies, threats into opportunities. The galaxy was entering a new age, one where progress would be driven not by control and conformity, but by the very qualities that had once made humanity seem dangerous: curiosity, creativity, and the relentless drive to exceed their limitations. In the end, humanity hadn't just won their freedom. They had helped free countless other species from the chains of stagnation. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and unknowns, but that was exactly how humans preferred it. After all, it was in facing the unknown and overcoming the impossible that humanity had always found its greatest strength. As the first joint expedition prepared to depart for the mysterious signals in the Sagittarius arm, Chen knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries waiting to be solved and boundaries waiting to be pushed. And now, at last, humanity would face these challenges not alone, but as part of a truly united galactic community, one that valued innovation, courage, and the endless pursuit of the impossible.